All right, here we are again. Eric Roberts, my insurance guy, my partners in crime here, James Cardenas and Mr. John Hanson, on your If I Were You podcast. So we are here with Dr. Roxanne Ramirez. I'm super excited you're here, by the way.
Thank you, Eric. It's good to see you.
Whenever we were putting this together, the whole goal was this, simplifying life through, different aspects and topics. And yours is, through relationships. So just so everybody knows, I'm going to give a little bit of a bio on Dr. Ramirez.
This is the famous intro, the world famous Eric Roberts intro, just so you know.
Yeah, the one, the printed off the website and highlight the hot stuff, right? So here's what I read about you. And by the way, I've known her for probably 4 years now. So I didn't just pull her off the street. Inspired by 20 plus years of experience and extensive work with children across a variety of issues related to autism, spectrum disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, anxiety, depression, trauma, and learning disabilities, which has provided families with tools needed to cope with these lifelong changes. So it sounds like you're booked. Your schedule is full.
I do. I have a waiting list right now. It's pretty crazy.
It's exciting too, isn't it?
Yes.
So you got 15 years working within the school system. I guess that means
before I went into private practice, I did counseling with special ed children, and I did that for 15 years.
Got it. And then your passion is serving the community within various, helping them, I guess, get moving forward within their own troubles.
Yes.
So one thing I see that you have extensive experience, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit. And it caught James and I by surprise because we were like, "What? I've never even heard of this." The EMDR.
We looked it up.
Sort of. Eye movement desensitization reprocessing.
Yes.
Sounds important.
Yes. It's used to help, especially with the extreme trauma, help bring down the emotion behind recalling a traumatic event. So it's really good, especially for like first responders or, anybody who comes up, being in a car accident, for example, traumatic divorce or abuse or anything like that. When you recall it, you're going to get emotional. It can really affect you and almost kind of re-traumatize you. So this helps to be able to talk about something without bringing up the emotion, too much of the intense emotion around it.
So you received your master's degree in marriage and family therapy from St. Mary's.
Yes.
Locally, are here in San Antonio.
Yes.
And you got a doctorate in educational administration from Baylor University. Go Bears.
Go Bears.
You got these cool letters behind your name. LMFT, LPC. What's that mean?
LMFT is licensed marriage and family therapist, and LPC is licensed professional counselor.
So you were the head honcho over at a new family counseling center.
Yes.
Here in San Antonio. The goal of your business is to co-create with clients regardless of race, age, gender, sexual orientation, inspiration, sense of strength, and a renewed perspective on life.
And big shoes to fill.
I know.
That's why she's busy, man. Basically striving to provide a service that focuses on creating a new perspective on life, love, and relationships, catering to specific needs of each individual and family, couple, whatever the situation is.
Right.
So that was a mouthful.
Yeah, your job sounds really rewarding. It sounds like there's a lot of things you got to go through to get to the reward, but golly, oh my gosh. Interesting.
I love it. It's fun. You hear a lot of interesting stories, and just being able to, it's very rewarding to help a lot of people with their issues, just to make life a little bit smoother.
In these times, for sure.
For sure.
Mm.
So, like we said, you got a private center here in San Antonio, specializing in individuals, couples, family therapy, experiences, depression, all these array of situations that that people may be struggling with. I've personally have talked to a lot of people about my situation from the past of, just trying to be better. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't say that I, struggle with anything as far, as trying to get moving on the daily basis. But I think, there's this huge black cloud on therapy. Whenever I talk to people about it, I'm like, dude, you got to look at this lady or look at this at this therapist as like a personal coach. You know what I mean? Because this is a what it is now is not what people think of, like what therapy would be like in, I guess, the 80s, or, you know what I mean? Like how it's just like, oh, that's, I don't want to do that. It's embarrassing.
You're going to shrink.
Yeah. It's embarrassing, that, I don't want anybody to know my wife and I are having issues or any of those situations like that. Tell me how over the last, maybe 10, 15 years, how therapy has changed in your mind.
I think overall, people are a lot more open to it and kind of realizing, well, everybody could use a therapist. Everybody could use someone to talk to, whether it's a specific issue or whether, like you said, it's just wanting to be better. I think I've seen a huge change during the pandemic for the last year. We've been really busy. I know a lot of practices and, a lot of people seeking out therapy, seeking out counseling, kind of realizing how stressful this has been. So it's been stressful, I think, in a lot of different ways. And so I think it's a lot more common for somebody to say, oh, yeah, I have a counselor, just to talk about how depressed I've been during the pandemic, or the anxiety I felt. A lot of people are feeling a lot of anxiety about being home, anxiety about going back to work, anxiety about getting sick. So I think it's a little bit easier to talk about that out loud.
And we just in our conversation earlier, you talked about, you still have your office here, but
yeah,
the transition from face-to-face interaction to, Zoom calls, FaceTime, whatever it may be, how, it's crazy how you said you mentioned you haven't seen anybody since, face-to-face since spring break of 2020.
Right.
I'm kind of, I guess at this point, kind of baffled by that, because I just assumed that, I don't know, if I want to meet with you, but I guess I'm just a human interaction kind of guy.
Well, I am too.
Right. Yeah.
I am too. And so that's really difficult. I think we are as therapists.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a lot more powerful to be face to face.
That was going to be my question. Was
Yeah.
Is it more effective face to face versus the Zoom?
I think, well, surprisingly, I think I've seen a lot more success doing video therapy than I thought we would, than I thought I would. But so I think it can be just as effective. But I think there's just for certain types of therapy, I think too, I think it's more beneficial to be in person. And so, but I think right now, even therapists and counselors are feeling some anxiety about going back face to face. I know I do a little bit, just like, wow, what's that going to be like? What are the precautions we have to take to be face to face again? I know I'd say 90% of my clients have been fine with doing video. And then the other 10% are waiting until I go back.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have about, I would say 30% that may stay permanently face to face.
Yeah,
Or video, sorry.
Being the technology nerd of the group,
Yeah.
I think COVID pandemic kicked off a lot of things, but it definitely shot a lot of companies and people who work for companies or with companies into the digital realm, right? And that's just something that I don't know that anyone could have predicted, especially in your field, being such a face-to-face kind of that type of field. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it brought, and then you can correct me if I'm wrong, it brought a lot of therapists from doing 1 or 2 Zoom therapy sessions a month to 100% Zoom therapy sessions a month.
Absolutely. And I think you're seeing a lot more commercials and things popping up for video or phone therapy all over the place. I mean, it's a huge market right now.
Sure, absolutely.
There definitely was there's teletherapy, telemedicine, there's definitely a huge push that direction.
Yeah, they were trying, and then all of a sudden it was like, well, now this is the way.
Yeah, it's not for me. I don't think. I'm about zoomed out. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like somebody's like, we're going to do a Skype call. I'm like, just talk to me
Right.
later. And
Yeah. If I'm going to Skype, there better be there's probably, 6 figures involved in this thing for me in some way, shape, or form. Because I just it's just to me there's distraction still.
Oh yes.
And
On both ends, even on even on my end, sometimes my son will walk into the session and say hello, and I think people have gotten a little bit more comfortable with that happening. I mean, that would never happen in my office, but it's like, they have their animals that pop in or start barking, or their kids, or
Sure.
things that happen. It's a little bit, definitely a little bit more distracting.
yeah, I just think though, whenever whenever I walk into your office, we're definitely we're every bit of 12 feet apart. You got these 2 big old nice sofas, like you can just lay down.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to, but you
Right.
can.
Right.
And
I definitely lay
you
down.
got your comfortable chair. You probably, it looks like you spent 10 grand on that thing. And it's just to me, there's just more of an emotional connection.
Yes.
Because you got the air down a little bit. It's quiet, and it's like, okay, what's really going on here? What are you trying to accomplish with with this session? Outside of barking dogs, kids barging in, emails, text messages. Oh, sorry, I have to take this phone call.
Sure.
Outside of a lot of that stuff.
There's a lot of layers to the onion. I feel like you have to peel back for people to really come out and express their true self, I guess. And so, yeah, I think he has a great point.
Well, it provides a safe place. And there's a lot of clients who've said, your office is my safe place to go to, where I can come and dump everything, put everything out on the table, and feel better as I walk out and go back into the mad world, I guess.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the facts.
Mm-hmm.
So, I want to get into two layers of this podcast. I want to get into the personal side of it, and then I want to get into the professional side of it, because we're all 3 business owners. We're all 4 business owners here. How relationships affect your personal life, how relationships affect your professional life, and then kind of wrapping this thing up with finding a balance, because we talked about, you went from therapist to therapist business owner, and now I know your family and your clients tug on you this way. However, your finances tug on you this way. How have you been able to balance this relationship with being a business owner, but also still maximizing your practice and taking care of your insureds?
Right.
That's what we call them, and taking care of your clients.
Yeah, you take care of my insurance.
Yeah, I do.
But I think that's a good point. Is like, you have to have good people. You have to have a good team to kind of help you, juggle all the balls. But I think you really have to make effort. It's boundaries. I mean, it's what we call in therapy, just having good boundaries, knowing that I'm going to work, a certain number of hours every day, and my stop time typically is either 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, and I'm done at that time. And then that goes into my family mode.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have some time in the morning that I allow for my family time. So I think that's real important when you have, small children. You need to make those connections, with your partner in your relationships. And I think that's what helps feed you, give you the energy, give you, to help you keep going, I think, when it gets stressful. Because when you work too much, it takes a toll on you.
And, you got 2 small children, what are they, 6 and 4?
6 and 3.
6 and 3. So you're playing this business owner, great spouse, mom role. So you got and we all know children take more time probably than all of them. And, in the grand scheme of things, also need more time than the other 2 for sure. Because your business will probably survive if you come in at, whether you come in at 8 o'clock or you come in at 11 o'clock, your business is going to survive if you set it up properly. You're not going to have those issues with your spouse if you're because they're an adult. They probably understand a little bit, but if you just you can make a change, do a date night or whatnot, and then that relationship is back on track, ideally, right? Man, children, if you're not involved or if you're not paying enough time with them, man, they react a complete different way, right? You get, you might have some temporary troubles. So, that balance is just important. And the challenge is, it's kind of like the design your life or like the wheel of life, whatever you want to call it. If those three are out of balance, you're not going to get a very smooth ride through the next however many until you fix it, basically. So
it affects you. I think it affects the quality of therapy that you do. I think when your home life, when your personal life is off balance, like you were saying, it throws off your work life, 100%.
There's a feeling, I guess it's just basically being out of control. Like when one or two things, work life, you're spending too much time at work and you're not spending enough time with your family. If two or three things get out of balance, lack of sleep, right, or lack of exercise, I just feel like you just kind of lose control of your brain and you don't really have a plan. And it's just like you're backpedaling the whole time. But if you're able to control it, and manage those things properly, it's like you were saying, it is your energy. It kind of feeds you. I don't know what those two dynamics or feelings are called, but I know that I feel it,
And I think, it's probably anxiety.
Yeah.
A little anxiety.
Is that what that is?
So
that term
we'll
is
go ahead
anxiety.
and schedule an appointment.
That's right. But I think, and you brought up a good point, which is the self-care. I think as adults, you have to exercise. You have to make sure you get enough sleep. You have to have your date night or go get a massage or do things for yourself in order to have, again, the energy or the stamina to be able to work and to provide for your family. Mm-hmm. I think if you don't do that, it's the same thing like being on an airplane when they tell you to put your mask on first and then put your masks on your kids. There's a reason for that, so that we can take care of them, but we have to make sure that we're okay first.
It's kind of funny you bring it up. It for a long time, when I was much younger, it's like, man, wouldn't you think you'd put your mask on your kid first? It's like, no, because your kid is not self-sufficient. You are as an adult. You definitely want to take care of yourself first, because then if you don't, everybody's out of whack.
Yeah. What if you pass out? What if there's a lack of oxygen and you get dizzy or pass out and then none of you guys have your mask on? Or
Yeah. And that's a crazy correlation there.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into understanding personal relationships. Everybody talks about love languages and all those things like that. Once you start figuring out that, what other people's love languages are, you can totally totally get a relationship moving forward. And then there's personality. Like we got the DISC profiles. We got all these other, what's that other one that people use to interview employees? I think it starts with an M.
Not the Myers-Briggs. That's maybe I'm telling too much about myself. I've taken that test before.
I think it is the Myers-Briggs.
Yeah, Myers-Briggs. That's what I was talking about. But essentially understanding people's, personalities, and then, but on the personal side. So love languages with your spouses and your kids and whatnot. Man, just so everybody knows, I am an acts of service guy. Do not bring me any gifts. I promise I will buy whatever I want. Do not bring me gifts, because now I feel like I have to get you a gift, right?
Right.
I am an acts of service guy. Throw something on my plate that I did not plan for. You will see me crying like a 5-year-old kid because I live and die by my calendar, right?
Right.
First things first. What books do you recommend? What are some hot books that you've read and recommended people reading to understand, I guess love languages or other self-help books?
Well, I think you said the 5 love languages. I think that's important to read. I think it's Gary Chapman is the author. And they have one for teens, they have one for children, and they have one, of course, for couples. But I think you need to know where to put the energy into a relationship in order for that relationship to flourish, whether it's with your kids or whether it's with your spouse. And I think that's a huge, an important book to read and a huge area to kind of put your energy in, because again, we were talking about tying that back to work. You come home and you're exhausted and you have a few ounces of energy to give to your spouse or to your kids. You want to make sure that you're going to put it where it counts. So if they like some, one-on-one time, or if your spouse wants you to wash the dishes, you'll do that. And it's a big help for them. So
yeah, it's amazing to me that, a hug to me is washing the dishes for my spouse. You know what I mean? It's just like, or, folding a bunch of clothes or whatever. I'm like, that just made you happier with me. Like, it's very
Right.
interesting to me, but it's true. And the longer you ignore the person's love language or whatever you want to call it, the harder it is to kind of connect. And it's just, it's tough. And I've experienced that myself. So I'm going to take your bit of advice and say,
Amazon.com.
instead of spreading it out between all 5 areas, just focus on 2 or 3, because you'll probably get more out of that approach.
absolutely. They on the 5 love languages, they also have a 5-minute quiz that you can Google online, and they ask you to put your email in, but they only send you the results. They don't send you a bunch of spam.
Sure.
And
Sure they don't.
no, I've
I'm
never received
joking.
never received anything. But it's great to be able to share that with your spouse, and you guys can talk about that, and sometimes be surprised at what some of those answers are.
They actually have an app too.
Yeah.
And so you can put that in there, and you can actually check the boxes of what you've done in that category for your spouse that day or that week. So it's been fun to kind of play with that too.
Good.
I mean, I've said this a handful of times now, is, a $20 copay could save you half your assets. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Just by, and even like we can throw it on this book. A $20 book could save you half your assets. Just trying to, better your relationships with really anybody around you. It doesn't have to be your spouse. It's any, your parents, whatever it may be. It could be anybody.
Helping you manage your stress and anxiety. But I think what the big thing is it's time. Again, you're taking time from your day. You're taking time from your work day sometimes. But you have to put that energy into it.
So you brought up managing stress.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna. That was an easy transition into this.
I feel the same way.
What is a common trend you're seeing in your office that people are having right now? Because I want people to know that, you're not alone. There's maybe a lot of people having the same exact anxiety or same exact challenges that you're having. And I'm a huge proponent of, you're not going to accomplish anything you're not mentally and, ready to. If you want to lose 20 pounds, cool. You can go to H-E-B and you can buy all the veggies and, chicken breast you want. But if you're not mentally focused yet and to attack that goal, you're never going to do it. Right. So what are the challenges you're seeing with people? We've experienced COVID in the last, 15, 16 months. We got this, political arena that's a circus.
Right. Disaster news.
Yeah, we got exactly
24/7.
Yeah, everything on the news is leading people to think that we our hours on
Armageddon's coming.
Yeah, our end is coming within hours.
Armageddon.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's just a couple social media.
Social media. We've been driven to the ways that they've asked us to protect ourselves in the pandemic has also driven us to do other things too, right? Which, like we were mentioning earlier, lack of physical activity, maybe not getting out as much because you're encouraged to stay inside, right? Your relationships to an addictive substance, right? Alcohol or whatever your vice is, social, pushing you towards social media, which we already know that social media is can be a bad thing if you look at it too much, right? You might compare yourself to everybody on social media. Everybody having a great day all the time when that's, we all know that's not real life. And like we were saying, disaster news. So we were just wondering, what are some consistencies that you're seeing emerge now post COVID that, like maybe what are 60% of your new cases are stress and anxiety related. So that's kind of what we were wondering, what the trends were maybe.
I think there's a huge number of clients that are calling in for anxiety, depression, having just been isolated. I see it a lot in college age, teenagers, college age, high school, college.
Sure.
And because they were so used to, think about in that time of your life, you're social. You're out hanging out with friends or going to parties
all the time.
Yeah. and now it came to a complete halt. And so they are, probably every day I have especially a young person, just like, I don't even know what to do. And I'm anxious about going back, and what are they going to think of me? And, what if I can't get my social life back?
Interesting.
And just being depressed of the way things are, and what's, and the fear of what the future is going to look like. Is this going to happen again? Are we ever going to get back to normal?
Wow, that's
not anything close to what I was thinking, by the way.
Yeah, especially at that age.
Yeah.
Right. You weren't.
It's younger. It's much younger than I thought. I see that adults, sometimes with families, are coping with it better. And you're saying, it can bring out addiction issues, domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
I think if there's already tears in the relationship, it's going to really start to have some big cracks there. And so that's where you're seeing so the other part of that is you can see some big issues there. It's going to test, it's testing relationships at all levels.
Right. The family
right
dynamic, spouse, stuff like that.
You brought up domestic violence. I actually was going to start this thing off with some facts.
Probably not the right word.
And then I really didn't want
I
really didn't want to go that route.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I didn't want this this whole podcast did not need to go that way. But I will say this. The numbers are staggering. And they're probably, you can do your own research. You can find it. What's the website? I know in Bexar County, there is like one of the top 3 counties in the United States for child abuse.
Right.
Which is I don't know. It's crazy.
Mind-boggling. Really.
Yeah. But, talking about being, a leader within your household. You know what I mean? Not just because you don't own a business, or just because I don't know, you're not I don't know what people associate being a leader with, but there needs to be a leader in your household. And if you don't know who that is, it's probably not you. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's important. How important is that?
Yeah. Basically setting the pace every single day. You start all over, you set the pace for your whole entire household. Mm-hmm. If you're struggling with something, whether it's addiction, depression, you got something on your mind that you just can't seem to shake, you're not setting your household up for daily success. And you either need to figure it out between yourselves, or people try. Let's go that route. People try to self-therapy.
Right.
I'm a firm believer. If you're not Roxanne, you're an expert in your field, right?
Yes.
I know more about insurance than most people, right? So that's why I sell insurance. What is your opinion on, self-therapy, self-healing? How do you get people to realize that, I went to school for years to do this?
I think, and it kind of goes back to when you start to see the need for it, when you start to have issues, or you notice your mood or the anxiety, seek out help right away. I think before it gets to the point where there is addiction or domestic violence or any kind of abuse, you want to take some steps, back and get the help. early. I think that your counselor counselor therapist can help you to kind of have a plan on how you do that self-help or that taking care of, just self-care. And so I think that's an important part. But I think, you have a lot of people saying, I don't need therapy. I can heal myself. And it just kind of is a downward spiral sometimes.
Yeah, there was a
go ahead.
It was a frequently asked question on your website. It was, maybe you got it right there. It was the third question.
Do I need therapy? I can usually handle my problems.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
What does that even mean? I can handle my own problems. Okay, then why are you still doing it? You know what I mean?
I like the usually part. I can usually handle it. I mean, like I might fly off every couple.
Right.
Like,
and you brought something up that I always tell people. The time to go to therapy is not when shit hits the fan. Because there's scars, and scars take a hell of a lot more time to heal than just simple discrepancies.
Right.
I may not understand what my wife is talking about. It comes to find out, my wife enjoys spending time with me. Who would have known that? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, why? Look at me, bald and fat. You know what I mean? Come to find out, though,
that's throwing stones.
Right. That's what she likes. And until you figure out those, your relationships, man, you can cut some people pretty hard.
We all have baggage.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, that's what the scars are, and when somebody pokes at that scar, it can really trigger you and send you into a dark place.
Right.
And you're not even aware of it.
Yeah, because people try to hide, behind, hide it.
Yeah.
Inside. Hiding things inside probably isn't the correct path majority of the time.
It leads to self-destruction. Or to blowing up. It's like that pressure in a volcano. It builds up and then it blows, and it's
sure.
And again, that's where the domestic violence happens.
Right.
That's where abuse happens.
And everybody's probably got their own volcano. So it's like John is really good at this. I really admire. If somebody is maybe to blow up on John, he stays very calm,
right.
and he doesn't react with emotion. He is able to not release his own volcano of things. So I can easily understand why people get into serious arguments, because like maybe I poked a scar that I didn't realize that I was, poking. And then all of a sudden you blow up. Well, I'm human, so I'm going to blow up too, So I think understanding what's going on is key. It's understanding what's going on.
Absolutely. Well, it's really getting to know yourself and really understanding what your triggers are. And I think that's what therapy can do is kind of, if not just help you identify what some of those triggers are, what some of those the pressure points, and making sure that you watch that. And again, a lot of self-care and take care of yourself, and know when to knowing those boundaries and when to step back and